Hi, my name is Deborah. I'm a student at Riverstone International School, and today we'll be teaching you how to make traditional Kenyan earrings, such as the pair as I am wearing today. So first you're going to need all your materials, which I have set here. I have my scissors, the beads I'll be using, the hooks for the earrings once we're done, the thread, and some needles. So you're only going to need one needle, so I'm just going to pull one out of my pack and set it aside. These needles are kind of sharp and very thin, so please be careful. Second, I'll be grabbing my thread, which is this, and for earrings, I'm going to do 2 arms length. So I'll show you. So I'm going to take my string and I'm going to take it the length of my arms. Then I'm going to grab it here where I left off, and I'm just going to do that again. I always prefer having more string than less string because it's a lot easier to cut off extra string than to try and re-add something. So I'm just going to snip that right there. And we're good to go. Next is the part that probably takes the longest, for me at least. I'm going to be putting my thread through the eye of the needle. Oh, I got a first try. That never happens, ever. So good luck to all of you who are doing this. Oh wait, no. No, I got it. Okay. So now I'm just going to try and get that in the middle of my thread. So I'm going to take the end, this end, and the other end, and then I'm going to push the needle through till it's in the middle. And the reason I do this instead of just like kind of wiggling it is because it can cause knots. And with threading needles, or with the thread used for beading, knots really easily. And it can be a really big pain to try and get it unknotted. So I'm going to tie it really quickly, my 2 ends. And it doesn't really matter what knot you do. I just like to grab both of them, wrap them around my finger, and then pull it through. And I like to do that twice. This knot itself is not going to be thick enough to stop any beads, but it's a good place to start your stopper bead, which I'll talk about once we get there. So now that I'm there, I'm pulling it through, and then I feel that my needle is not quite in the middle. So I'm going to put my needle in the middle. Also, be careful while you do this because, again, you really don't want to knot your thread. So this whole time, just kind of take it easy, go slow. There we go. So now I'm ready to start beading. Today we're going to be using a brick stitch, and our main color is going to be this light blue. So I'm going to take a yellow as my stopper bead, and you just pick it up with your needle, and then you're going to put that all the way through to the bottom of your thread. And once you get to the end, you're not going to let it go quite off right at that knot we made. If you guys can see that, we're going to go back up through the way we came. So we put it on this way, so now our thread's going to go this way, and that's just going to create a little knot so that none of our beads fall off while we're making our earrings. So I like to go through twice just to be safe, because sometimes if the beads are big enough, it'll actually slip off with just this one knot. So I'm going to go in once and then go in again. Now that I've gone in twice, I'm going to go through and pick up 8 of these really pretty light blue beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I'm going to put that all the way down. So I have these on my little needle. I'm just going to thread those through. Sorry, my hands are kind of covering it. Up till you get to that yellow bead. So if you can see here, here's something you'll probably run into. There's this little string hanging out here, and you really don't want that. So I'm just going to tug on my 2 strings up here to kind of straighten that out. And we'll also have another video linked that can help you out better if these instructions don't really make sense. Next, I'm gonna separate my beads out once I get them to the end, because our beads are up and down, but once we stitch them, they'll be laying sideways like that. So I'm just gonna kind of give it a gap so our beads have a little bit of room to lie sideways once I start my stitch, because if you don't give it enough room, it's gonna ruin it and you're gonna have to start over again. So just make sure you're giving yourself some space. So I'm gonna go into my second bead here, and I'm gonna go up the way we came. And then I hold the bead in place so that it doesn't go all the way up your string, and that way you don't waste any of your string, all of this area that you've created for yourself. And mine knotted a little bit, so I'm just gonna kind of be gentle and kind of work out that knot. There you go. Oops. That one just twisted, so I'm gonna untwist it. That's so weird. I don't know what happened there. Oh. So I'm gonna take this out and I'm gonna try again because I'm not really sure what happened with that. Oh, yeah, it looks like my string got kind of tangled. So I'm gonna take this out the same way that oh, just kidding, just kidding. Sometimes you have to play with it like that. See, I thought that I messed up, but it worked out. You just kind of have to play around with it a little bit. So next, I'm gonna take one of my other strings, one of my other beads here, and I'm just gonna pull up on it and thread that through. And it should line up in this chain really nicely. Again, remember just kind of to play with the string to help it fall in line. I'm gonna go again with the next bead, going up the way I came. And you really don't want to make these too super tight, because if you make them super, super tight, it's going to be hard to work with. So make them like sturdy, but don't just crank on it, because then it will get kind of curly and it won't lay nicely. So I'm going to go back in, up, through the bead. And you're just going to do that for the continuation of this row. This is going to be your first base row of the earring. As you can see, my string got a little tangled there. So there you go. Fidgeted with it, made it better, and keep going. I kind of have these gaps again, so I'm going to just tug on my string here, make it look better. There we go. And then here's my last bead of this row. So this is going to be the bead where we end up cutting it off at the end. So I'm going to go over this one twice, the same way we did our stopper bead. I'm just going to fidget with the string really quick because I have a little loop there that I don't like. There we go, I fixed it. Now I'm just going to go through and stop this bead. So I'm going to go the opposite way. The string's coming out this way, so I'm going to the other side of the bead over here, and I'm going to go through the bead twice, just so that when we cut it, oh, just kidding, I'm not going through twice. I'm going to go through it here, and then I'm going to go through this loop, and that's going to make it a knot. That way when we cut this bead off, or when we cut this part of the string off here, it doesn't mess up anything. And like I said, you're going to do that twice. So you got to go through and then go through here. You're just making a knot. Now our next row is going to be yellow. I think we should do yellow. So I'm going to pick up a yellow bead, and now I'm not going through the string. I'm not going through the bead itself. If you can look here, there's a bunch of tiny little stitches right here that are connecting the beads. So you're going to go through that thread. The big thing is you really don't want to get in the way of this stopper bead. And then you're going to go up through the bead. So the bead has a string coming out at the bottom. You're going to go back up the same way that the string's coming out. So I'm not going to the opposite side. I'm going through the side that the string is coming out, unlike how we did earlier. And I'm just holding onto the stopper bead with my pinky here to keep it out of the way for now. And then you're going to pull up on that and it should lay down nicely. That one's kind of laying a little funny, but beads are like that sometimes. So I'm going to make sure I pull on it, I tug on it, I play with it, and then that's kind of looking more like how I want it to look. So now that that's kind of in place, I'm going to pick up my second yellow bead and do the same thing. I'm going to go through this side stitch here that's connecting the two beads, and I'm going to go all the way through. One thing I will say, keep in mind as you're doing your first row, keep it loose, but not too loose, because if you make it too loose, it is going to be harder to put on these second beads, the second row. And so I'm making this row a little bit tighter than I made the first row, just because I made my first row a little bit too loose. So you're going to just keep doing that the whole way through. One thing I like to do is try and keep tension on the bead, like on the string, so that the bead can't run away like you just saw. Because sometimes that's a little bit frustrating when you're trying to get a bead in and it's not working. This stitch is called the brick stitch because generally you add 2 beads on the end so that it has this like brick looking pattern. But when I was doing the traditional Kenyan bracelets for a project I was doing, decided to take away 1 bead each time so that I get this nice triangle instead of like a rectangle shape. But we'll see as we move further on. You'll kind of start seeing the brick pattern that happens. Alrighty. This is our last bead for this row. Just making sure I get both of those. Uh-oh, so I messed up on that last bead. So I'm going to gently pull it off and kind of wiggle it around. I went through the wrong way, so I'm just going to kind of figure out which string does which. See if I can't get it back. There we go. So now I'm just going to kind of use it like floss. I just went in on the wrong side, so I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm going to finish pulling the bead through all the way. There we go. Now it sits nicely. And there's your second row. So now I'm going to go back in with that turquoise color, our main color. And you're gonna do the same thing. But make sure, so the string's coming out this side, you need to start on this end. You can't start on this other end, or else it's gonna mess you up. So start on that end, you go through the thread, that little seam there, and then you're gonna go up through the bead. I would also recommend, although it's probably kind of late to recommend this now, I would recommend using like a blanket or a rag or an old towel to set your beads on. That way they don't run away, because especially like on hard tables, it's very easy for the beads to run away. I don't know what just happened there. I'm gonna put that bead on again. It popped off. But using a towel, it makes it easier to count the beads. The beads don't roll. And then the only thing downside is that it does make it slightly harder to pick them up. But I learned this from one of the ladies who works at Need to Bead, where we get these beads. And she told me they have like beading mats that you can buy, like specifically designed for beading. But because I'm not a super avid beader, I decided I'll just use one of my blankets that I don't use very often. So, yeah. So now that we finished the second row, we're going to move on to the third. No, that's the third row. Now we finished with the second row of blue. We're going to move on to the third row. And kind of looking at my red and then blue. I'm thinking I want to do dark blue now because the yellow is already a bright color. So maybe we're going to do a less bright color. So you're just going to do the same thing again on this last row, this next row. Pull it through. And then that one went a little funny. And go back up the way it came out. And sometimes you kind of need to tug the bead a little bit to get it to sit in place, and that's totally okay. So now we're moving on. One more bead left. And as you can start to see, now we're getting this nice pyramid shape. Oops. So here's something that happens pretty commonly. So here we see this little, I don't know if you can see it, the black line right here. You're just going to move that out of the way. This is something that used to trip me up. You can always loosen the string. Never be afraid to loosen the string or to just take off the bead altogether to fix it, whatever mistake you may have made. Because in the end, it's better than just throwing the whole piece away and deciding to restart, I think, which I did a lot of when I first started beading. I actually have a bag full of just like 3 or 4 beads that have been like knotted together, just complete failures when I first started beading. It's kind of something that takes practice, kind of like everything, but you kind of have to learn how to finesse it a little bit. So I'm going to go back in with my blue, my light blue, our main color, and I'm just going to go in the next row. And it's pretty easy once you get the pattern. It's just getting the pattern that can be a little bit challenging sometimes. So here I can see that if I were to keep going, I'm going to knot. So I'm going to problem solve, and I'm going to put my needle through. And I just avoided a knot there. It's definitely something that takes a little bit of patience. I really like beading to like relax. It's almost like if you crochet or you knit, where it is kind of complicated at first, but once you get it, you got it. And then you can just like talk to people while you're doing it, or listen to music, or watch TV. I used to watch TV all the time when I was beading. I loved using it as an excuse to watch TV, actually. I'd be like, Mom, I have a project. I have to watch TV to finish my beading. Because, yeah, I mean, why not? But now that we've finished with that row, we're going to go in with red. And as you can tell, I'm just kind of alternating colors. I'm going my main color, which is that light blue, and then a color and then another color, which you can see here also kind of happened. They alternate colors. I honestly fell in love with the jewelry while I was in Kenya. It's absolutely beautiful, which is what really started getting me into beading, because you can't really find anything like that here in the States. There's no, like I feel like our earrings tend to be made out of like stones or metal or precious metals, you know. Like I have friends here who make jewelry, but I haven't met anyone else who makes jewelry the way that I saw in Kenya. So I thought it'd be really cool to learn about. And I'm happy I did. Oops. So I got my stopper bead stuck in there. Just gonna pull her out and keep going. And then you're not gonna go all the way up to one bead. Like here, I can see that I have 3 beads. So I'm gonna do my last layer of light blue at the end here. And that's it. Because you need 2 beads at the top instead of 1 bead, like you're not making a complete triangle, because that's where we're going to put our hook so that you can hook it in and have it be the earring. So we have our 2 beads there. Did I go? Oh, I didn't go back up through. Or did I? No, I did not. Go back up through. And then you're going to go here. Second one. And then you're done with the top. So this little line, this last stitch, like all the stitches we've been going through, that's where you're going to get your earring hook. And there's a little piece that you can hook in, and that's where we're going to place it. But that's this top part of the triangle for the earring that we're making. And I'm going to now hop over. So I'm going to go back in on the other side, and I'm going to go straight through all of this row of beads right here. So I'm going to go in through the first bead, the first outermost bead, then the red bead, our blue bead, dark blue, our light blue, our yellow, and our dark blue again. Really just going completely through that outer layer. Hope you can see that. So I'm going to pull that all the way through. And I like to do that. I'm not sure if it's necessary. I feel like it makes this part where you're going to put the earring hook a little stronger, because it would be such a shame if that part just ripped off and broke your whole thing. So now we have this really nice triangle with this, just, you know, the string hanging out, and that's going to be our frills, these pieces that we're making here. So I'm going to start off with, I think, 6, and then we'll move on from there. So you're going to take 6 of these beads, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to make a pattern on the end. So I'm first going to put this up, see if it's a nice length frill for me, if I like that length or if I want it a little bit longer. If you want to have your frills super long, you can add more beads and then just keep the same pattern at the end. But I'm going to put my frill here. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to make a pattern, and I've decided I want red to be my middle. So I'm thinking this is kind of a lighter pattern. So I'm going to do yellow, dark blue, red, and then I'm just going to go back to the dark blue and then to the yellow again. And as you can see, this is kind of making a pattern at the bottom of our frill. And then I'm going to pick up 3 more blue beads. And this is going to be what creates a little like flower shape. So you're going to put this all the way through. And this is what our first frill is going to look like. So this is going to be the shortest frill. And now I'm going to go through the yellow, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I say the flower shape. But you're going to go back in through the yellow and the blue, and you're going to go straight up all of these beads here. So make sure not to leave any out, because that will definitely make it look a little funky. And then I'm going to go straight through the bead that's attached to the bottom of our little pyramid, and that's what's going to secure it. So you go down and up, and you see this little flower pattern that you get at the bottom there? That's kind of what we're looking for. And I like to tighten it, but if you make it super, super tight like this, when you attach it, it's going to be stiff and it's not really going to go anywhere. But if you make it too loose, there's going to be some gaps. So you want to have it on there so it's well attached and kind of snug, but you don't want it to be too terribly tight so that you don't have the little frills that shake when you move your head or whatever. So I'm just tightening that. Now I'm going to go down through the second frill. And now I take however many blue I started off with, and I just add 2 each time. And that's kind of what I go by. Of like, okay, I had 6, and I'm going to pick up 8 blue beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8. And then I'm going to do my pattern again, which was the yellow, blue, red, blue, yellow, and then you're going to pick up your 3 beads to make the flower at the end. That's pretty much it. And you're going to just do that all the way across. I think the frills are my favorite part because there's so much you can do with them. The different patterns you can make. I've made some that are long and then short and then long again. Like they go kind of like this. I've made some that are just kind of diagonal. Those ones came out pretty interesting. I've made this shape where it's just kind of like goes down and then like a little whoop shape. So you can really have fun with it. Sometimes for this bottom piece, you just kind of have to play around with it to get it back to shape. You know what I'm saying? Do a little bit of that action. And then again, you're going to go down this second row that's attached. Every time you do this, you want to make sure that you're attaching it to the pyramid and you're going through the pyramid, because the pyramid that we made is the base of our whole earring. And it's okay to pull that a little snug again. You just want it not to be too snug. So I'm going to just continue to do that for the rest of my rows. Now I'm going to pick up 10 beads. Like I said, you just add 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For these ones, I decided that I'm just going to make them diagonal because we have an even number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it'd be hard to do the middle one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to make them go diagonal. I'm going to make that pattern again with the yellow, the blue, and the red colors. And then pick up my 3 for the flower. And that's pretty much all you do for every single row. I would say the only thing that disappoints me is surprisingly, I don't wear that much jewelry. So I don't wear the jewelry that I make ever, but my mom wears it. Just because as a high school student, like I don't really have anywhere to wear jewelry to, because school's, like that's kind of fancy to wear jewelry to school, you know, unless something fancy's happening. So, here's a problem that I came up with many times when I first started. There's this loop coming out. You just want to fiddle with it, and it's going to go through. I think that's the biggest thing that no one ever talks about, is honestly just fiddling around with the string helps so much. Because I used to be like, no, I ruined my piece. And like, I didn't actually ruin my piece. I just needed to play with the string a bit or kind of tighten something here, loosen something here. Now I'm going to pick up 12 beads. I find beading very stress relieving because it's one of those things that you kind of think of. It's almost like doing dishes. You know, you think about it, but you're not really thinking about it at the same time. And then it also, you have to kind of concentrate. So I feel like it takes your mind off things a little bit. Or if you do need to think about something, but you don't want to just sit there and zone off, it kind of gives you the space and the time to think about whatever you need to think about. Go through the base. That one just got wrapped in the stopper bead. The stopper bead's a very aggressive one. It keeps getting itself tangled. And here I got another tangle. The thread just kind of tied up here earlier than it was supposed to. So I'm just going to loosen that up and kind of get it down. There we go. And to make it look neat, you really don't want to see any string or any loops hanging out of any of your rows. And as your rows get longer, that was what, 12, 6, 8, 12, I think I'm 14, I think, I'm pretty sure. We'll just do 14 and see what it looks like, I guess. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. So this happens many times because I'm often not just beading, I'm often doing something else while I'm beading. So if I lose track of where I am, I just push all these to the front and I compare it, and I can see that this one's way significantly longer. I can also see that I made these ones the same size on accident. So I accidentally put the same amount of beads on these two. So I might do the same here, have 3 of the same size, and then go back up, if that makes any sense. Because I have two short and long, long, long. And then so I'll do 4 of the same size and then have it go back up. So we're actually going to make a U shape. I think a lot of beading is actually just kind of improvisation. Is that how you say that? Improvisation? Yeah, improvisation. Kind of like art, how you have an idea going into it, but sometimes plans change. Like here, I made a mistake, but it's not a big deal. You just kind of figure it out as you go along. The only time I would say you have to be super precise is if you're doing a very specific design. One of the bracelets I made, I had the Kenyan flag. I almost said logo, the Kenyan flag in it. And that one I had to actually sit down and draw out my beads and figure out how I was going to build each row. But other than that, for the most part, I find like making earrings where I'm just kind of doing my thing. You don't have to, draw everything out. The only thing I hope I did say at the beginning is that you don't include these 3 beads in when you're going up, because that's what's going to give you the flower shape. I should have said that earlier. You don't include the 3 blue beads that you put at the bottom. Those are just going to kind of hang out and they kind of fall into place. Usually, like this one didn't fall into place. Like I said, you kind of just whack it into place and there it goes. Down through the next one. Oops. Maybe don't tug so hard on it next time. And then I'm gonna do, I said I was gonna do that same size one more time. So I'm gonna put in 12, it was 10 beads. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 beads. And I'm actually decided I'm gonna cut this off now because it's kind of getting in my way. I'm gonna cut this off right at the base, but you don't want to cut any of the other string on the bead. So the stopper bead, you're gonna kind of go on the string. Oops, wrong side. So I'm going on the string at this stopper bead. And then I'm just gonna go where the stopper bead is, as close as the scissors will let you get without actually cutting it, and then chop it there. And that's gonna ensure that you don't chop off any of the knot that you made to keep on there, and that's what that knot was for earlier. So now I'm going to continue with those beads so I don't have to worry about my stopper bead getting in my way. I would not recommend cutting your stopper bead until you're finished or almost finished, because that's just not a great idea in case the beads decide to fall off or they're not slips. And I feel like it also, maybe it's just for me personally, I feel like it doesn't look right unless I have my stopper bead on there. So to pick up my flower bud at the end, go back up through. Oops. This one's kind of being stubborn. And there we go. You go up through it. Bam. And that one fell right into place. That was satisfying. So now you can see our earrings almost done. We're gonna go back down. And then this one's only gonna have 8. We're going 2 less because we're gonna have that nice U shape. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the way down. Make your pattern. This bead doesn't want to, sometimes beads don't want to be picked up. I know sometimes when I'm concentrating, my hands get a little shaky. So that happens. And then you're going to put your pattern on the bottom there. Go up through it. And then that one unfortunately didn't fall into place. You kind of just have to play with her. There we go. And then at last, we're doing our last row. We're gonna, this bead kind of went on weird, a little twisted, so I'm just gonna pull it forward so that it falls nicely. And I don't like the way this is looking, this bead, so I'm gonna reattach it to this one. You guys don't have to do this. It just is not looking like it's super attached, so I'm just attaching it again to the second bead, and then I'm tying a knot. And this is just like an insurance policy because I don't want to risk it. And I'm going to do that twice, actually. So knots are definitely frustrating at sometimes, but at sometimes, like in this case, where I'm making sure that this bead is secured, it can be very helpful. Again, going up through that second one at the base, and then tying a knot there. And then, again, trying to make the knots as discreet as possible is going to be the key here. Yeah. Alrighty. Now we're going on with our last row. Oop, and I don't have enough beads. I only need 6. Well, I need 9. Actually, no, I have a few already over here. So ooh, that was almost perfect. Okay. 2 ones there. And then you're going to make your pattern one last time. And then you're going to pick up your 3. There was only 2 left for the blues. That's obviously the color you're using the most because it's your main color. And then you're going to put this on here. Go back up through that first bead. This is that bead we had that was deciding to act up a little bit, which is okay. We all have our bad days. And then I'm just going to tie a knot again because that's how we ended. So I'm going to go, you can pick any bead. I decided because I already tied a knot through that blue bead at the bottom, I'm going to go to the yellow bead now and just go up through it and then tie a knot. And again, I like to do it twice, kind of just as an insurance policy, going through both of them. And this was definitely something I never really learned. I kind of just figured it out for myself. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and snip that. And then we should be done here. I just see if you, making sure that that looks nice. That's it, you have your earring. So now the last part is to take this little hook, and you'll see that there's a tiny opening right here when you guys get them, when you open your package. And so you're just gonna slide that on, twist it in place, or kind of tighten it. And there you go. You have an earring. So I'll take my earring out and I'll put the new one that I just made in. Let me see. It takes me a while to find it sometimes. Here, let me try the other one. There's your earring. And then once you make 2 of those, you'll have a beautiful set of earrings. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have fun, and I hope that your earrings turn out beautifully, and please let me know how they turn out. I'm really excited to see what they look like. Have a great day. Thank you.